Achieve this and you will become God. I have thus far shared this only with my private clients. I tell you it for a reason I am not certain of. Perhaps to give yourself an opportunity to make your life the benediction it was meant to be. You have become very familiarized with it, haven't you? The voice inside your head, it doesn't necessarily speak to you, it just speaks. Even as you are reading these words, it is speaking, and every third line you are interrupted. Whatever you see, you don't see it in full because you are trying to see and it's talking. The tape recorder in your head is always left on. The battery never dies. Those rare glimpses of freedom and bliss and peace that you have felt in your life were the result of the tape recorder accidentally turning off. It stalled and you saw the heavens. It paused and for a moment you were free. In the temples, the ashrams, and the monasteries around the world, in meditation camps and silent retreats around the globe, there are teachers and instructors teaching about meditation. There is chanting, there is incense, there is prayer, there are mantras, there are prostrations, posters on the wall, holy texts on the altar, tradition, ritual, ancient passages. Retreat into a cave for years at a time. For what purpose? To shut off this voice in the head. It is like the cartoon of the man who has destroyed his entire house after numerous failed attempts at swatting a fly. The Rinpoches and the Buddhist masters and disciples are true seekers. I hold them in high regard because of the purity of their intention. But facts are facts, and the fact is that only a small fraction of even these lovely souls succeed in shutting off the voice in their head. One will naturally hear this and wonder how plausible it is if even those who meditate all day and follow years of ritualistic teachings aren't able to accomplish this task. That would be a wrong question. A better question is this: why do those who achieve it achieve it? And why do those who do not fail to do so? I will not enter down the road of modeling the behaviors of successful people. For success is a product of non-negotiable visions more than it is a product of behavior. The people who achieve anything are the ones for whom the vision and the payoff is central to their existence. They would consider their life a complete failure if that particular thing was not accomplished. The pictures of business, entrepreneurial, and worldly success have been painted thousands of times, and thus it is easy to visualize them and be familiar with what the outcome would be like. But the vision of achieving thought freedom have not. So allow me to paint this picture for you. As I wrote this last sentence, I was rushed to write the next one, in which I would vehemently proclaim that it is not my hope that anyone will stand before this picture with wondrous eyes. It is neither my wish nor my hope that you will imbibe it. I am neutral in this regard. You see, motivations are never actually created. They are always latent in a particular human being. And thus, when the impetus arises, the motivation that was always there comes alive. I will paint this picture without trying to sell it to you. I will not adorn it with pretty adjectives. Although I must admit that the very content of the outcome may itself seem so compelling that it sells itself. I will do my part in painting the picture in the most matter-of-fact way I can. Thought freedom is not freedom of thought. It is the freedom to think only when you want to think, and the ability to have silence of mind when you are not thinking. Thought freedom is to have silence as your default state, and thinking as a voluntary and utilitarian act. For all of your adult life, you've had the precise opposite, have you not? When you need the car, you drive it. When you don't need it, it doesn't keep driving around the block. It sits quiet and still in the garage. If you were to live in thought freedom, you would have thoughts only when you wanted to have them. Thoughts would become utilitarian. It would be a tool, and thus You would only think when you needed to think. Thus, you would have all the great thoughts and ideas without the noise. There are great ideas coming at every moment, but you only hear them once in a blue moon. And this is because they are drowned out by the mental chatter, the noise, the constant stream of involuntary thought, the tape recorder. If you attained thought freedom, the voice of the person you are speaking to would not only be heard, it would be felt. And in a short time, you would begin to hear the words he or she was going to speak before they even spoke them. Yes, you would be able to read their minds. As I wrote this last sentence, I did it as matter of factly as I could. I'm not selling you. As I said, if the claim sells itself, that's not my doing. If you attained thought freedom, then you would become what you see. There would be a union between you and it, and thus you would see it wholly, fully, in three dimensions and as if for the first time. If you attained thought freedom, you would never suffer an emotional outburst. I'll quickly give you a factual reason for this lest you think I'm selling you. The reason that emotional outbursts arise is precisely because of involuntary thought. The involuntary thought produces an involuntary emotion. This is what I mean when I say that human beings do not live their own lives, nor do they live the life of someone else. They live as reactive bare nerves, a spinal and reflexive existence, to which the remedy you have been given is to take a moment to think before you react. Or you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. My dear friend, if you have not achieved thought freedom, while you are thinking about your reaction, you are just sitting in the car which is wildly driving around the block. The thought is still not yours. It is not under your control. And while you may produce a slightly less emotional outburst today, it is bound to be released tomorrow. Because the car has not been parked still and quiet in the garage. If you attained thought freedom, your work would become a masterpiece. Because you would work without interference. You would, as a natural byproduct of thought freedom, achieve super concentration. It has been said, all of man's ills arise from his inability to be still. But what has not been said is the inability to sit still is the result of the greatest disease of mankind, involuntary thought. Is this a panacea? It is in fact the only bona fide panacea in existence. Put succinctly, if you train yourself to achieve thought freedom, you become a living, breathing God. From the moment you awake to the moment you sleep and into the dream state, your life becomes divine. It is done systematically, for when you begin this journey of thought freedom, your mind will tell you exactly what you want to hear. This is great pitfall in this so delicate journey through the snow-filled mountain pass with invisible crevices at every corner. In this journey, the mind will come begging you to stop. And when it does, you will have ascended close to the peak. Then you will have glimpses of ultimate reality. You will feel yourself slightly floating as you walk. For your body will act according to its own intelligence, uninterfered with by involuntary thought. This involuntary thought is like a drop of red dye which filters through the ocean of our existence. And then you will come to a point where you look around and find there are no thoughts. No matter where you look, there are no thoughts to be found. You can create them by thinking, but they are completely under your command. You have not only achieved the moment, it has finally become yours once and for all. What I have given you in this discourse is the actual fine print underlying enlightenment, moksha, nirvana, samadhi, freedom, peace, bliss, and liberation. Become trained to do this and you will get all the above for free. Simply put, this is the only thing we must achieve. For upon achieving this one thing, all needs, desires, pains, and miseries vanish, and one becomes a living God.